Well, good morning everyone, and what you're looking at here is a vervet monkey, and it's alarm calling. You can also go away bird alarm calling, and we feel that they are looking at the leopard that was seen on the Juma waterhole camera last night, and it sounds like there was some great action for whoever was watching, and thanks for all the updates that have been sent through to us. Now, I'm not going to waste any time. Good morning to you all, and welcome to the Sabi Sands here in South Africa. It's an overcast morning, but we already have an exciting stuff that I'm really looking forward to, and will we find this leopard? I think we're close to it, and with a bit of luck we will find it shortly. The monkey seems to be looking quite directly downwards, and this helps us because wherever they're looking is where the threat is. We've got VM on camera, and Nick is in final control, and Fred's took the morning off to rest and relax. Give me a moment to concentrate on the drive and also try to find this animal. Sandy riverbed that he could well be lying up in is that I should be able to see his tracks fairly easily if he has already moved upstream. So I'm just going to make sure he crossed here. If it doesn't, that he has. Go ahead, Tex. No sign. I don't know if he's somewhere down below these big marulas here. I checked as far as that drainage goes in front of the Vuatella rooms, and then I just looped ahead to here. But he might be in between. Morning everyone. Good. How are you? Good. Cool. We'll see you later.
Yeah, good one.
Thank you. It's a tricky thing, alarm calls, because it's always so exciting. You know that they can see what you're looking for, but you can't find it. So that is currently the pickle that we are in, but at least we know it's here, and if we are patient and spend a little bit of time around, we could hear other animals alarm calling, birds, smaller birds, squirrels, that may be able to lead us closer to exactly where he is. However, in the meantime, what I'm thinking is to snoop around a little bit off this road here. For these guests with monkeys alarm calling literally above their rooms, knowing that they're going to head out and search for whatever it is that the monkeys were alarming at or are alarming at. I've got a feeling, and I hope I'm right, that we're going to find him somewhere down here. Confirm you've located. Sorry, text not. I'll confirm you've got him. Copy, well done. Well, that's why teamwork's so important. Texan has just driven up the road we've come down and bumped into him. So, we should have a view shortly. And how awesome is this? We are on our way to look at a leopard, and we're maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the drive, so not a bad start. And it just goes to show how a few minutes can mean missing an animal, and that's why it's great to work in teams and have other vehicles searching areas when you know there's potentially something around. Question through from Sherry. Morning Sherry and welcome. Sherry is interested to know how the leopards sneak under the electric fence. Well, the only time I've seen the one do it, there's a small riverbed that runs out of the camp, and obviously it's difficult to put the strands of fence right up to the base of that riverbed that will flow in the summer. So there was a small gap that she managed to sneak through, but I'm fairly certain they can just jump straight over it if they wanted to. Okay, so the leopard is somewhere on our right. The only way I know that is that all the guests' heads from the vehicle in front of us are poking down to the right. Well done there. So, a brief glimpse there of this male leopard, and now we need to do a little bit of off-roading in order to stay with him. All good there, Vio? Seems like Texan, who has been working on this property for many years, knew a better route than I did, and that just goes to show how spending long periods of time in these areas you do get to know not only the animals but also all the little shortcuts and open areas that help you when off-roading and following animals. seen him, Vim? Okay. So, apologies folks, we just need to be a little bit patient here. And I'm sure in time we'll get a better view of this animal. Now a lot of you may be concerned about the vegetation that we're driving over, but you don't need to be. People have been doing this for 50 years in the Sabi Sands and it's still a perfectly sound ecosystem. Of course there is some impact. I would be lying if I said we did not impact at all, but the impact is very minimal. And if people have been doing this for 50 years, if it was not sustainable and it was going to have a negative impact, we would surely notice it, which clearly you don't. And I guess how you could think of us as miniature elephants. We cause a lot less damage and destruction than elephants do. So that's something to bear in mind. Let me see if I can find another little route here, because our vehicles are a little bit more maneuverable than theirs. Okay, so it takes in motion that I should drive out in this direction. Oh, there he is. I'm also here. He's in the block now, and we are west of the shortcut in front of the Gallagher rooms. That's where he headed north. I think Tex will be able to maybe give you better directions than me. It looks like he's playful this morning, and we can expect him to carry on doing these little bounding trots. And some great camera work there, Vim, and you get an idea of how good their camouflage is when they are in thicker vegetation like this. so. To do a big loop around here in order to try where we can take the path of least resistance. So, except for that, that was not the path of least resistance, that was the path leading me into the silver cluster leaf. So I gave a little bit of a nudge. Morning. Now, we'll make a decision up ahead. I'd like to get you one more view of this animal, but because of the nature of this vegetation, I may decide to rather go and look for something else. This is not the only leopard on the property, and certainly not the only animal, so what I may do is head into a different area, but I'm going to get out my GPS in a moment, just establish exactly where we are, and then make a decision, but just to keep you updated on the plans. Now I'm hoping he's coming towards us, but it could be that he's veering more east. Okay, copy text. I've got a small gap here for now. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to stay. So, there's a little bit of a gap there. Let me just see, Tex, have you still got visual of him? Okay, so we've just missed him, he's looped behind us. Oh, there he is. Okay. One. Well, we might be able to get a good view at least of his face. So hold on a second. Oi. Absolutely beautiful. And really good camera work, again by Vian. Not easy when the animals are on the move, especially through the thick vegetation like this. But wasn't that great? And I hope you enjoyed that view of what looks to be Kunuma, the young male leopard we were expecting to find in this area. But I fear that this may be the end of the road. It's just so thick with a specific tree called the black monkey orange, and they are not particularly enjoyable to follow animals through. It makes a very loud noise, and there's literally an impenetrable bank of them in front of us. So I think I'm just going to get out the way so this game drive vehicle can carry on with its business. Oh, I have just seen him again. Let me just see where he heads to. He could come towards us, but he does appear to be heading in the wrong direction. Tex, I'm going to move out. It's too thick here. But thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Try to make it way
So now ready to get up my trusty little GPS to try and work out where exactly we are. Well, thankfully we're not very far from a road, and it's only because of a GPS that I've been able to work that out. It can be confusing, especially when it's overcast, as to which direction you've been heading in predominantly when you're following animals off-road. So one can find themselves getting discombobulated quite easily. I remember early on in my guiding career, following animals at night off-road is always exciting, but again difficult to keep in a bearing of your direction that you're moving in. So I've once or twice found myself getting lost, but thankfully you often have a tracker that can guide you out of the situation without too much embarrassment. So he's been heading north and east predominantly, and like I said, we're not very far from a road. So what I'm going to do is going to try and get onto that road and wait for him. Go ahead. We just lost him, but if you come along Buffels with Katlan, west of Mvubu, east of Mvubu, I'm going to stand by here. See if he doesn't pop out. Sorry, Orpjas, Makulu, Latinia. Well, what a good start to the morning. But what is important to bear in mind is how the quality of our sightings does fluctuate greatly depending on the day and on our luck. So, the likelihood of him popping out onto this road, I mean, there's a decent chance, but leopards can chop and change with their movements of direction. Sorry about this, just the game drive channel's a bit busy. Go ahead. But you still beat me to the road.
It's better I don't because you just trying to run away from me. Then I must just leave you alone.
Okay, Tex. Thanks very much. Have a good morning. So Texan just got a hold of me on the radio and he said, it's not fair. Your small short vehicle, you can slither around through the bush like a snake. So just a little bit of friendly banter and joking amongst us. And he is a wonderful man, Texan, has been working here for many, many years and has a wealth of knowledge that thankfully we get to tap into, and his skill of finding animals and knowledge of the area certainly do help us, because without him and all of his knowledge there would be a lot less interesting animals found, and we all share the sightings. There is actually another vehicle who was hoping to come and see this leopard, but as you saw it was too thick, and that's just the luck of it. Sometimes you can just be 5 minutes away, but that's not close enough. Was that last night, Tex? Copy. Well, what a start it's been to the morning, and we're just going to take a few moments here to see if this leopard doesn't pop out, and we'll let Aubrey continue a little bit further ahead of us to make sure that area is covered, and we'll try and cover this section where we are currently situated. So, to all of the newcomers and to all the regulars, just a reminder, you can ask questions at any moment. And to do that, you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Then those questions come through. Nikki in the final control room will look through them and try and relay them through to me on the earpiece as we go. And a lot of questions do come through, so if yours doesn't get answered, apologies, but you can imagine there are many, many people sending the questions through, so it's just luck of the draw which ones get answered. How's everything in there, Nix? Okay. Just to give you an idea of how far away we last left this leopard from this road, it was probably about a quarter of a mile. So not extremely close, but in the same breath not very far considering how quickly that he was moving. And he had been moving in generally this north and easterly direction. So north is kind of left-right and forward back is east-west. So his general trajectory was bringing him towards this road. Whether or not he'll ever actually make it to this road, we'll only find out by searching for him. Failing this, which I'm not feeling hugely confident about, to be honest, I would like to head through to Tex Aubrey's just behind me. I stayed quite close to where we came out of the block, and I've just continued now down in the same direction as you, but yeah, just moving slowly down the fire break. Thanks, Nikki. So, if there is somewhere that we can sit and wait for him where we'll have quite a view of two different angles. And judging by the speed he was moving at, if he does continue, he should pop out here shortly. Just to know, I'm going to stand by on the fire break and go at that line junction. Okay, so because he is heading towards this very open area, well, at least he was heading towards this very open area, I think we should make the most of the opportunity and give it about 5 minutes and see if he doesn't pop out. There's a very big open road that's actually been cleared to act as a fire break, and it's essential to have these fire break roads that run through the property because there are lightning strikes at this time of the year and also towards the end of winter or coming into summer, the first rains, and the fires here can wreak havoc. And obviously with a lot of camps and buildings we need to have fire breaks in position, so this big open fire break road is going to aid in not only preventing fires from spreading through the reserve, but it also may aid us in getting a brief glimpse of this leopard one last time. Well, the good news is Texan has driven down this road and he's found another interesting animal that all of us would love to see, and thankfully it's not moving too quickly, so we can head down there in a few moments and see an animal that we do not see very often. So that's the only clue I will be giving you, and somewhere down that long road we shall hopefully come across whatever it is that Texan has found. And I think enough's enough on the leopard this morning. We've been so privileged with leopard sightings over the last, well, the whole production really, but especially over the last week. We've had some incredible leopard sightings. So no point in forcing the issue when we have been going through a bit of a lucky streak. And there's still a chance this leopard could pop out anywhere as we slowly head in the direction of the next surprise that we have in store for you. There's some of Viem's favorite birds here, and let's see, well done Wiem. They're called babblers, and I hope they continue to babble as they were as we arrived. Arrow-marked babblers. Pretty birds, but sadly because they are quite secretive and like hopping around quite dense vegetation, copy orbs. Sorry, man. So those were arrow-marked babblers. And I do have a plan. Well, I did have a plan for this morning, and it was mainly for the ornithologists amongst the viewers. And there was a bird that I saw out in Arathusa the other day that is quite rare, and I feel that it may be missing on a lot of your bird lists. Now, for those of you who are new to Safari Life, it's important to understand it's not only the big cats and the high-profile animals that we'll stop and look at, but the other animals. And that's the safari experience. You can't only rely on the main big animals, because sometimes you can't find them, and those are the times when you can start really enjoying the finer details and other animals that occur out here. So birding does form part of a big part of the safari experience, and when we do manage to get them sitting down, we do always try and show you. The tricky thing is they tend to flutter off very quickly. There's a lot of rattling sticklers, alarm calling, so I'm just going to reverse a bit. And a rattling stickler is a very small bird. That they often do make a racket, actually, these rattling sticklers, and but there seem to be 3 or 4 of them in this bush alarming, so I'm not sure whether it was for the leopard or another predator that they may have seen, but a very small bird. but it may have false alarm. So anyway, the plan is to go and try and show all of you a bird that I don't think you would have seen before. I may be wrong. And that is out on the Arathusa airstrip. Now, as I did mention earlier, there's an animal, or there was an animal, somewhere along this road that we don't get to see very often. And I'm hoping we're going to be able to find it now. I'm just checking my radio comms. Copy, perfect. Just keep me updated, thanks. So somewhere in this thick vegetation you can now see a beautiful big giraffe having his breakfast. And it's cold this morning. I'm putting my jacket back on. There's a cold wind in the air. When we're off-roading, it's actually surprising, not tiring, but you do get hot because of turning the wheel so often, I guess. I don't know. But I was cooking. I needed to take my jacket off, but now that the off-roading has stopped, it's time to put the jacket back on. Now you can hear a bird making a kind of rasping rattle call. Is my impersonation, that was terrible. But it's a very important bird call to know because it often signifies there being animals around, because that was the call of the oxpecker, which will probably be feeding on this giraffe. I'm just going to try and reposition now that we've let him get a little bit used to us. I'm hoping we're going to be able to find a gap here. Now, interestingly enough, I just need to make sure, but it looks like, yes, he is indeed feeding on a tambuti tree. And giraffe will be one of few animals to actually feed on this tree. It's got a milky latex, which is toxic. I just need to make sure, but it looks like, yes, he is indeed feeding on a tambuti tree. And giraffe will be one of few animals to actually feed on this tree. It's got a milky latex, which is toxic. And I've actually noticed that when they do feed on tambutis, this is a young tambuti it's feeding on, they can often begin to salivate profusely, but he doesn't appear to be doing that yet. Now, the wood from the tambuti tree is also toxic, and if we were to use it for firewood, we would become sick. and not many animals will feed on the leaves. It's just giraffe and porcupine that feed on the roots and bark of the tamboti. I'm not sure if there's many other animals that will. So that milky latex, which is toxic, will keep most other animals at bay, but not the giraffe. As you can see, he's loving it. And you'll notice I said it's a male. And this is easy to see now, just like in the human world, men tend to bald and women not so much. But you can see the top of those horn-like structures are bald. And that would have been from fighting with other males. The hairs will rub off on the top of those vestigial horns. Whereas the females will have little tufts of black hair growing out of the top of those horn-like structures. So that's one of the better ways to be able to distinguish between male and female giraffe. I'm sadly not copying you very clearly, Nix, but we can try again a bit later, thank you. Either that or try to speak more slowly and clearly. Diane in Michigan, good morning. Diane in Michigan would like to know if this giraffe has a scar on the left side of its neck, and not that I've seen, and it is quite a commonplace for giraffes to have scars. So it can sometimes be misleading to use scars on the neck part of a giraffe to help identify them. But I think Diane is interested to know whether... Oh, there is a big scar there, apologies. It's massive. How could I have missed it? So it does indeed have a large scar on its neck, but from the angle where I'm positioned just ahead of VM, I can't get my binoculars onto it. So it's in a little gap that allows you to see the scar from the camera, but I can't see it from where I'm sitting here. However, looking at the monitor, I can see the scar, and it is looking very distinctive, Diane, so it could be a giraffe that you've seen in the past. I don't think I've necessarily seen this one. And there's an oxpecker sitting just above the scar, so that was the bird we heard calling earlier. And it's sitting there in the hope that it will find some tasty morsels to feed on the giraffe, and it certainly will. They are plagued by ectoparasites called ticks, and it's the oxpecker's role in this environment to feed on the ticks and therefore help the giraffe in getting rid of these parasites. And speaking of parasites, you can see one's obviously frustrating it because it started to scratch its head there. Marianne on Twitter would like to know what exactly causes those scars on their necks, and it could be a combination of fighting. They do have some very serious fights, and they swing their heads into one another at huge speeds, and I'm not sure if that could cause the scar. I think it's more of a a skin problem caused by parasites. And I'm just having a look in Brent's Animal Bible that he lent me this morning. It really is a wonderful book, to see if they do say anything about it in here, but I don't think it will. But it's not from an encounter with cats, that's for certain, that scar. And in all likelihood, there's some kind of a skin disease or from fights with other giraffe. Okay, let's see if we can get one last view of him. But I fear, oh no. You also notice he's got a big scar on the right side of his neck as he's now turned around and is facing us from the other side. There it is. So not as big as the one on his left side. Oh, he's got a beautiful dark coat though. And what incredible animals they are, the giraffe. And the sun is trying to poke out behind some clouds, and potentially in half an hour or an hour or so we may have some sunlight coming through. I wonder what he's seen. Giraffe can, when they start staring intently, lead you to some interesting animals, but I don't think that is the case. We will monitor him, and it may simply be that. He's noticed something in the vegetation that he's not entirely certain of, and that could be because we're here and have got him on alert, but he does seem very relaxed just looking from him now. Maybe it's the tambuti, the milky latex of the tambuti, that's making him feel a bit funny. Maybe it's the tambuti, the milky latex of the tambuti, that's making him feel a bit funny. Now, just got a question in from Marianne. Morning, Marianne. And Marianne is interested to know, look at how flexible that neck is. That is incredible. Sorry, Marianne. Marianne is interested to know, how would a pride of lion manage to take down a giraffe? And there is a pride of lion that we do see from time to time that have killed a giraffe. They are sadly not on our traversing area though, so we cannot see them. But they did catch a giraffe, and it does happen with lion. I guess you know that a giraffe will get scared if a lot of lion are chasing it, and possibly when it's running away it could trip up, and or lions can jump up onto their back and bite into their spine and cause damage to their spine, thus paralyzing them. So there's very many different ways that lions will be able to bring them down, and it'll all vary greatly on the individual hunts. But what is important to understand is that it is dangerous for lion. So now you can see the giraffe has seen something, so we will reverse ever so slightly and show you what it's looking at. So it was just some Impala crossing the road, and this is a young male, probably born around November or December 2013. But interesting there how the giraffe's body language did change dramatically. It was just antelope that it was looking at, but it could well have been a leopard or something else. So just to show you how they can see things and help us. But back to Marianne's question, yeah, many different ways that lion could bring down a giraffe, but it's a dangerous business, because if you receive a kick from a giraffe, you will know all about it, or potentially you won't know anything about it, and it will be the end of your career. So dangerous animals to hunt, but obviously if you do manage to bring one down, you don't have to worry about food for a few days. And depending on the pride of lion and the area that they live in, you may often find that lions will specialize in hunting certain animals or unique animals like giraffe or buffalo or even elephants in some rare cases. And can you believe that? Prides of lion hunting not baby elephants, sometimes adult elephants, and managing to bring them down. It's sadly never a quick death for the elephants, because it's very difficult for the lions to perform the coup de grace on such a big animal, and I'm not sure if I'd be able to watch that event unfold, because it would take hours for them to kill the elephant. But it does happen, and that is nature. In my time in the Sabi Sands, though, typically you haven't seen too many lions hunting giraffe, and the reason why they wouldn't specialize in hunting them is because there simply aren't very many here. There's not a lot of giraffe, and because of that, why would they specialize in hunting them? Please, can you have a delay after initially asking and then go with the question? got a question through from Anna Marie. Good morning, Anna Marie, and how are you? Anna Marie would like to know whether I've ever seen giraffe fighting, and I have, not very many times though, never full-blown or very serious fights. So essentially the answer to that is no. Oh, look here, he's come to give himself a scratch. This is going to be awesome. So obviously joy he's getting out of this little scratching session he's getting here. Much needed, and I guess it takes a while to find the perfect branch to bend over and scratch your stomach with. But no, sadly, I have not seen giraffes doing any serious fighting, and would really love to see it. It just goes to show, even though I've spent years and years in wilderness areas, I haven't seen certain things that people who have only come out on safari once in their life may have seen. So there are just so many different things you can see, and a lot of it depends on luck. So it appears that the tree decided to use as a stomach scratcher has been capsized or broken, and it therefore is no longer providing much resistance in order to help scratch his stomach. Let's see what his next plan is. Oh, he's not done with it. Oh, he's going in for another one. Gives you an idea how tough their hide is. If we were to drag ourselves over that some bush would be covered in cuts and scratches. But it's a soothing scratch for the giraffe. We've just got a question through from Virginia in Kentucky. Good morning, Virginia. And still on the subject of fighting, Virginia's interested to know if these small horn-like structures known as ossicones, do they ever break off when they're fighting? And no, not that I've seen or heard of. They are very short, hard, bony structures that would be incredibly difficult to break, and I haven't heard of them breaking. I guess because they are very short, it would be more difficult for them to snap off. But there certainly is a chance that somewhere along the line, a giraffe has broken an ossicone, but I've never seen one. Okay, well, I think we're going to leave this beautiful big giraffe to his own devices. It's been a magical sighting, but it is time for us to go and look for something else now, as he again decides to feed on another tambuti tree. So it's interesting, it's not at all the times of the year that you'll see them feeding on tambutis. It's quite interesting that he is, because like I did say earlier, it's a toxic plant to most other animals. So I think now we will start making our way towards the Arathusa airstrip, and we will no doubt bump into other animals along the way, but I would like to try and get there timeously. Have a look for the rare bird that I'd like to try and add to the ornithologist's lists, and if we have no luck there, I can assure you some beautiful scenery in that area that we'll be looking for them along the Arathusa airstrip. And if there's time after that, maybe we'll try and pop in at the hyena den site. It's been a while since we've been there. There's been so much other stuff going on, and I guess when there have been little gaps when we would have been able to go and have a look at them, they simply weren't there. So it's a lottery out here, and it's been a while since we've won the hyena jackpot, so it'll be worth trying a little bit later. It is nice and cool today, and even though the sun is shining now, it's still quite fresh, and myself and Vim, as you can see, still have our jackets on. Just an update, there's been very, very few people on this property this morning, and what that means is a lot of places have not been searched. So it's It's really exciting when you know that. It's always exciting, but when you know nobody's been down any of the roads, it makes it that much more exciting because you know very well that you may find some animals that have yet to be discovered. So, a big old lone buffalo bull. And there might be one or two following suit. They like to come and spend the hotter parts of the day as it warms up at waterholes. This guy seems a bit early, but like I say, I'm sure some of his friends will be following him to this position shortly, and as we drive on we may even see a few more heading here. He's just chewing the cud as he goes. And having a toilet break. So they can multitask, the buffalo. We've just got an interesting question through from Vicky. Good morning, Vicky. And I guess Vicky possibly asked this question because she can see a lot of flies on our faces over the drives. There are a lot of flies around, but they are not sand flies, Vicky. Vicky is a snow. We do get sand flies in Africa. And yes, we do get sand flies in most subtropical areas of the world. But they have never caused personal issues to me, and therefore I don't know too much about them. So even though I know we do get them here, I haven't personally had any problems from them. I believe if they bite you, they can leave a bit of a rash, and so it's an irritating fly that can also carry disease. But I personally haven't come across them in my travels through Africa, and I've grown up in South Africa, spent time in Mozambique, Kenya and Tanzania, and those are all tropical and subtropical areas, yet I haven't had any problem with sandflies. So maybe I'm just lucky, or I guess that must be it, or possibly I just haven't been into a specific area where sandflies occur. Their name is also derived from the fact that they live in often very sandy places. So they do occur here, Vicky, but I've never had any trouble with them. It would be interesting to know if you have any trouble with sandflies in your part of the world, Vicky, wherever you are from. Question through from Sandy in Indiana. Sandy is interested to know whether we get ostrich here, and she did mention that on a few years ago she did see a glimpse of an ostrich on a drive, and they do occur in the Greater Kruger National Park, which is where we are now, but they prefer more open areas, open grasslands. They don't do well in thicker areas for a few reasons. I think the food that they require is easily acquired in the open grasslands, and also there's less chance of them running into lion and leopard. They can see further and therefore outrun prey, but in thick vegetation they might find themselves getting into some dangerous scenarios. So even in my 3.5 years, well, coming on 4 now with the work I've been doing here, I've only seen a giraffe in the Sabi Sands once. An ostrich once. So they do occur here, but they are rare, and it's simply because it's the wrong habitat. And there's lots of not only birds but also antelope that will occur in the Sabi Sands, will have free flow, be able to move here if they wanted to, but they don't because it's the wrong habitat. And the Kruger National Park is a huge area, and I guess Africa as a whole is huge, and you get animals occurring throughout Africa, but only in isolated pockets where the habitat suits them. So each African country will have diverse habitats, and that's the same can be applied here in the Kruger National Park, which is the reserve that we are collectively a part of. There's no fence between us and this massive reserve, and that allows animals to free flow and also occur where they actually want to and are best suited to occur. We could catch ostrich, put them here, and they would survive for a while, but obviously they don't want to be here, otherwise they would have made their way here naturally. Hopefully though, WildEarth will start a project elsewhere at the end of this project, and maybe there we'll be able to show you some different animals, and there's no limit to how many places we could go and do this from. So let's hope it all works out. So I'm checking quite carefully for tracks of a female leopard called Karula. It was the mother of the leopard we saw earlier this morning, and well, it is the mother of the leopard we saw earlier this morning, and she was kind of heading in this general direction last night. Brent spent some time with her towards the end of the evening drive, so it is just worth keeping tabs on where she is, even if we don't actively look for her. But if we just see her tracks, then we've got an idea that she's in this area, and that we can come back and look for her later or this afternoon. There's tracks of a herd of wildebeest that have also just come back into this area. We're not sure if they were here before, if it was the same herd we used to view. But wonderful to have a herd of wildebeest back, and the tracks were heading around in this area, but they seem to have head off to the right now. I'd be interested to know if Vicky replies to my question to her, whether she has sandflies at home, or if they bother her, or why she wanted to know about them. Okay, copy, thanks. Did she say anything about the bite and what it causes? Okay, well, that's interesting, Vicky. And Vicky replied to my question to her, and Vicky lives in Texas, and she says she does get sandflies there. And possibly the sandflies attack animals and not humans so much. And maybe Vicky's noticed some similar wounds on animals here that she may have on animals that she might see in Texas. So I'm not too sure, but I don't know too much about sandflies. So I'm trying to find out what Vicky knows, and then we can share it with everyone. And that is the beauty of this live and interactive game drive, is that everyone can share knowledge with one another, and that way we get to know more about what's going on. Now, here are the female leopard tracks that I was expecting to come into. Just going to jump off for a second and have a quick look around. I'll be back now, and like I said, I don't want to lose focus and spend too much time on these tracks, but I do want to just establish which direction she's moving in, so we've got an idea for later on. Okay, well, that was useful. It appears she's continued north along this road a little bit and then cut in an easterly direction. So we know later the general area to go and search for her if we are interested in that. And the reason why I wanted to have a quick look is to make the most of the fresher tracks from last night before the wind and other animals pass over this area and vehicles and therefore lose the tracks. I'm guessing we're about 15 minutes or so away from Arathusa airstrip, so get your bird books out because there's going to be a trickier bird than normal too that I'm going to ask you to try and identify. Just got a bit more info on harlequin dreams. Thanks for sending some more info through on the sand flies, or also apparently known as sand fleas. And they're also found in North America and Canada in the summer. I'd be interested to know whether they cause much of a nuisance to us as humans, and what exactly that nuisance is. Do they bite you, and is it a small rash, and what is the wound like that you receive from a bite from the sandfly? Okay, so this is Treehouse Dam. Could you just go again with where it's from, please? I've just got a question through from Dara in Ohio. Morning, Dara. And Dara is interested to know whether the airstrip we're heading to is where there's a warthog with an abnormally large offspring of 7 piglets. And it is indeed, and hopefully they'll be running around when we get there. These old buffalo bulls are just relaxing here at the waterhole. And just like we saw the other bull heading towards Gari Dam a little bit earlier, it is common to find them here at the waterholes at this time of year. Oh, there's 2 that are having a very, very mild little tussle, but worth hanging around for. Who knows what it may lead to. And I guess, like most fights and arguments, they tend to build up with intensity, even though at the moment these 2 look half asleep. And you may notice there's a wildebeest in the background that I've just seen. So it's probably the same herd that we had tracks of further back, but they would have veered off the road because their tracks didn't continue down here. So you'll notice a dark shape in the bush behind, and that is not another buffalo. They do look quite similar, the 2 animals, and can occasionally be confused. So what I'm hoping is that the wildebeest are going to pop out into the open, and that way allow us for a great one-shot comparison between the 2. Now, whether these two bulls are tussling like this out of almost friendly companionship, certainly doesn't seem like there's any major intent here. And the fact that there's no females around in the immediate vicinity would also help me kind of assume that it's just some friendly interaction with one another. But, oh, that one's eye was in a very dangerous predicament there for a second. Sure. And like I say, maybe it will build up with intensity, but with the lack of females around, I'm not sure what would possess them to want to have a big fight with one another, because typically their main competition with one another would be only when there are ladies around and the opportunities to mate are present. There's a little blue Birchall starling, possibly thinking of refereeing this bout. But more likely it's that the starling is using these two buffalo to help its hunting, because as the buffalo move, they chase up little insects that the Birchall starlings can then run along and grab, and that's exactly what it's doing. And it literally is right in amongst them. Isn't this awesome? Another time that buffalo bulls may fight without females around, or an exception to not having ladies around, is possibly when it becomes dry and food is less available, so essentially the animals become hungry and irritable, and at that stage, later into the winter, we could expect them to fight quite seriously, but who knows? Who knows what it is that's causing these two to act like this morning? Very occasionally, when horned animals are fighting, their horns become interlocked and they cannot detach themselves from one another, and then naturally will end up dying, because it's very difficult to move and feed when your heads are stuck together. I've seen that with male kudu before. I've come across lion feeding on two kudu that had interlocked horns and then died, and the lions came across an easy meal. And I've also seen the same thing with buffalo, so it's uncommon, but it does happen, and wouldn't that be a terrible way to go? Well, I don't think that's going to amount to a battle for us that's worth us hanging around for. So now that I think it's safe to assume these two old boys are not too serious with their morning fight, we shall continue. There's just one buffalo that's staring very intently up into the bush ahead of him, almost as if he's seen something, but it could just be his pose. They do tend to hold their head up and stare over their nostrils when they do see anything of potential danger, but I think I was wrong. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a leopard coming down to the water to drink or something along those lines. So Nikki's just sent through a message saying that there's a lot of you sending through information and links on sandflies, so thank you so much for everyone that is sharing their knowledge with us. Okay, well, it sounds like sandflies or sand fleas, as they are also known, are terrible little creatures that cause a lot of discomfort to us as humans as well as animals. Apparently dogs and cats will carry them on their coats, but they do bite us humans, leaving nasty little red bumps, and if you get enough of those nasty little bites, they will end up leaving essentially a rash. And I believe they also can be very annoying when lying on the beach, and they can literally be crawling all over you as you're trying to enjoy the sand and the sunshine. So thank you for sharing that knowledge with us. It sounds like a lot of you in various parts of America and Canada are bothered by these and pestered by these little flies or fleas. They don't seem to be as common in South Africa, or certainly not in the parts of South Africa that I've seen. Now, I've got a challenge for VM. It's always a gamble doing this, but there is a beautiful bird flying in the sky. It was flying towards us. It's behind this big tree, VM, and clearly, oh no, is it too far? No, it's headed off in the wrong direction. It was a beautiful bird called the batelier, a big bird of prey. The tricky thing is with them is that at this stage of the morning, when the hot air thermals are rising off the earth, they can soar effortlessly at high speeds of comfortably up to 50 miles an hour, and obviously if they're not heading in the right direction or if they veer off, it makes our job showing you them a little bit tricky. So we have stumbled upon a herd of male Impala, and we're going to start taking a much closer look at these animals, because over the coming weeks they are going to start their rutting, where they will compete fiercely with one another for rights over territory, and it's the rights over territory that lead to the rights to mating. If they can secure a popular territory that the ladies like, naturally the ladies will flock into that area and they will have free reign over them. And like I said, they will fight very aggressively using their horns, and occasionally they can even kill one another. I've come across 2 different Impala that had been killed during rutting over my years. in the bush, and that's just the two that I've seen, so it certainly does happen. And they let off the most bizarre call. I cannot wait for you to see it if you haven't seen it before, as they run around chasing one another. It's kind of like a gurgling, burping roar is the best way to describe it. You would never guess that it was an impala that made it if you were to just hear the audio. And I did hear them doing it for the first time about 5 or 6 days ago. So they are beginning to do it, but that was the first and last time I've heard it. So it is building up to the right period for them to be in full rutting swing, but we're not quite there yet. So it's a dangerous time of the year for the impala, obviously because of the threat they pose to themselves, fighting with themselves for the females. But more of a problem comes in is that when they are so caught up in fighting with themselves, it allows for very, very hunting opportunities for lion and leopard, because they become so absorbed in their fight that they may not notice a leopard literally running in an open clearing straight towards them and jumping on their back. So we can expect to see 1 or 2 male impalas dangling out of a marula tree in the coming few weeks, because leopard will kill them and so will lion. That I can almost guarantee you. It can be really interesting to see, and I'm hoping we're going to be lucky enough to see it, is that you could be sitting with a leopard that's fast asleep and not very interested in doing anything, and if impalas start rutting nearby and start fighting, she'll hear this funny gurgling roar that they let out, and then literally the leopards will get up and head straight in that direction at a high speed, knowing that these impala could either run into the leopard or lion while they chase one another, and or when they're absorbed in the fight, horns locked, it allows the leopards to sneak up. Well, the sun is beginning to shine beautifully, and what a good opportunity this would be then to find some animals to show you with the perfect sunlight. Well, I'm just going to have to change over radio frequencies because we are moving on to another property. They use a different radio frequency there, and the reason why is different radio frequencies will be assigned to different areas rather than having too many in one area or too many vehicles on one station, because it would be chaotic if all of the different sightings in the Sabi Sands were being controlled on one network. That's why you have different areas, networks for different areas that you work in, so that there's less radio traffic, and the radio traffic you do here is applicable to the smaller kind of area that you may find yourself in. Some very, very large bull-elephant footprints walking down this road. Just going to try and find some clear ones to... I think these are the best ones up ahead here, the ones on the right here. I'm just going to even jump out to give you an idea of how big these footprints are compared to mine.
Next one.
So that's a very big track. And that's a big foot. Just to give you a quick idea as to how big those feet actually are, and I hope that gave you an idea. It is difficult though with the camera being mounted on one position, because it would be so nice to have a camera that we could swoop over the tracks and talk you through what's going on, and that is something that could potentially be incorporated into the Safari the Safari Live experience in the future, and we are looking into it. So that is something to look forward to. Question through from Anne on Twitter asking what it is that triggers the ratting season, and it's said that the first full moon of May will be the trigger for male Impala to start ratting, and I think that is a good kind of event that you could expect the ratting to happen on, but it very often, varies a few days either side of that full moon. It's not like a light switch going on and off, and that's important to realize out here, is that very seldom do things happen exactly as they're always supposed to. So that's guys, it's Scott here. I'd like to head towards the airstrip off Safari Driveway and see what's happening there, and possibly respond to a sighting if anything exciting is happening. Okay, copy. Not to bother. I'll get an update later on and see what he's up to then. Could you just go again with the position for me, please? Okay, copy. Thank you very much. I'll get an update a bit later. Okay, copy. Thank you very much. There's a tree squirrel that's alarm calling quite profusely here. Now, again, the problem with alarm calls is that it could be alarm calling at one of many predators. Birds of prey, snakes. I beg your pardon. It was actually a crested barbet calling, and it's unacceptable, but I do get them confused, and I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, if you don't mind, it's just on that dead tree there. You can see it silhouetted in the middle. So apologies for that misidentification, but the bird has just flown off there. Well done, VM. And it was a crested barbet. Okay, so just to keep you fully updated, and there are no secrets out here on safari, there's a sighting of Tingana, a beautiful big male leopard who is the dominant male of this area to the west of where we usually travel or traverse. But there are already 3 vehicles there and 5 vehicles queuing up to go there. So occasionally there is a lot of pressure and intensity around one sighting, and it's often best to avoid those areas because we don't want to be queuing up to see a leopard. We've already seen a leopard this morning, and of course if it was nearby and it was meant to be and there was space to go, and we would go, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense to join these queues and rather go out and do your own thing. And those are not the difficult questions, but they are the scenarios that field guides do find themselves in, not just us with you, but also the guys who are here with guests, whether to respond or not to respond, or go to one area or not to another, are the decisions that you're faced with. And naturally, the guides feel great pressure to show their guests a good time when they are out here, but where's the balance between racing around seeing as many different animals as you can as opposed to going out and just enjoying the experience? So it's a tricky balance, and a good guide will have that balance of being able to keep his guests happy without having to race around from one sighting to the next. We certainly will, though, keep track of that sighting, and if people do manage to go through or decide to take themselves off the standby queue, then of course we may go. But for now it is not leopard we are interested in. It is now a small bird that we are looking for. Morning, Roy. Thanks, man. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, well, we are on the airstrip, and now it's time to start searching for a little brown bird. It's about the size of a thrush, which is a bird that a lot of people worldwide will know. And I'm hoping we can find them. They're not a numerous bird, and I was not surprised to see one here, but happily excited to see that there were some here when I did see them a few days ago. Now, I'm just going to stop and get out my binoculars and have a good look around and see if we cannot get another bird for the ornithologists out there. They were exactly in this area where we're looking now the last time I saw them, but obviously birds have wings and the ability to fly, and therefore they could be a great distance away from here now. Oh, I've got them. Okay. I think. And it's just up ahead of us here. So again, it's a small bird. I hope it lets us get close enough to it to allow you. Oh no! Oh, no, that wasn't it that flew off, so that's good news. Oh, I saw a bird fly off of a very similar size, and I thought it was the one we were looking for. Where? Now I fear that the bird I was hoping was the bird we were looking for was actually a different one. And I apologize for that. Okay, well, I think I'm just going to have to swallow my pride. Apologies for that. I did think I'd seen the correct bird, but what I think I may have found is something else that's interesting. And that is a crowned lapwing nest. I can see the adult sitting down in all likelihood incubating her nest. So let's go and have a look at that if we have found something else of interest. Okay, VM, can you see the bird at kind of 1 o'clock? Yeah. Just ahead of us there. If you zoom into it, and we'll just drive up slowly. So I think she's sitting on eggs. I'm just going to creep up a little bit, and it is bizarre, she's out in the open, but that is where they nest. So let's see. Yep. Jackpot. Can you believe it? So we found one of these nests just the other day, but there was 3 eggs in it, so she's only got 2, and you can see her now alarm calling at us, understandably. And sorry to disturb you, and we will leave you now. Okay, we just wanted to show people your nest. Bye-bye. So, that does happen. That could alarm that crowned lapwing, whose nest we just found. Wildebeest, zebra, any animal walking towards her nest would induce the same behavior. So as long as you don't overstay our welcome and just give you a brief glimpse, it's nothing too serious for her to deal with. And interestingly, because they nest on the ground and the eggs are very vulnerable and chicks are very vulnerable, if they see a predator getting close to the nest, they'll often feign that they've got a broken wing and kind of limp off, trying to attract the predator's attention away from the nest. And naturally, any predator that sees a bird with a broken wing hobbling around will be interested in it. And the predator will then move off the pathway of now we are getting closer to finding the right bird, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try. I think it could be the right bird we're looking for, but there are a few similar looking ones, but let's get a little bit closer here. Let's hope no aeroplanes are coming to land at the moment. There shouldn't be. Okay, VM, have you got it at like 11 o'clock? Well done, VM. So, I'm not convinced that that is the one we are looking for though, and I've just realized I've left my bird book on the vehicle that I usually drive, so apologies for that, that's not ideal. Where is it hiding now? Well, it is a lark of sorts. That's the only clue I'll give you. This one I don't think is the lark that we are looking for. It's doesn't have the right colorations, and I'm not sure. It could be a Sabota lark, the one we're looking at, but again I would need my book to double check. They're all very similar looking, except for the one that I'm hoping to show you that is rare, and that is the one that is evading us. Busy here, and it does take up a bit of my concentration, just to let you know. Just got a question through from Sandy. Good morning, Sandy. And Sandy's interested to know whether we've seen any of the warthog. And no, we certainly haven't. If we had, we would have raced over to them and had the cameras on them. So sadly, no sign of the warthog. mascots. Okay, well, we are going to drive up to the other end of the airstrip in the hope of finding both the bird I was hoping to show you, as well as the warthog or anything else of interest along the airstrip. Open clearings, few and far between in the Sabi Sands. It's typically thicker thorn felt that we have in this area, so this open clearing can often attract a lot of animals. And that would lead me to explain why we don't get large herds of wildebeest and zebra like you do in areas with large open plains. Good morning, Ryan. I'm copying you better than anyone else. If you could just please give me the exact location of that Tingana sighting. Okay, copy, perfect, thank you. And do you know what Bambay's got? I don't know what it means in Shangaan, what the guys are saying. You joking, awesome. Copy. Copy, thank you. Okay. What is the time? Nikki, sadly I'm battling to copy you out here, so questions are going to be difficult. Folks, just to let you know, the radio reception that I'm getting from the final control room is very sketchy in this area, so that is why Nikki has been battling to get any questions through to me, so apologies for that. Well, this is a beautiful tree that I'll allow VM to take you on a little journey through. And it'll be interesting to know whether any of you fancy your luck in identifying this tree. The biggest clue and indicator for me as VM pans downwards is the way the trunk is formed and the way it looks. It's got a very unique style or formation, and there's a word for the way this trunk looks. So that for me would be the key indicating feature. And then we'll just take you on one last show up. You can have a look at the leaves on the way up. That's also useful for identifying trees. But beautiful, beautiful tree this, and this specific specimen is an impressive one for the species. Thank you, Vim. I'm just getting my GPS out again to get a better idea of exactly where I am and learn a few of the roads in this area. We sadly, for various different reasons, haven't spent too much time across on Arathusa. It's a wonderful property, but signal for us is difficult here, and also it can sometimes be a little bit busy with game drive vehicles, which doesn't suit us. We prefer to be able to spend hours with animals and not be obliged to leave after about 20 minutes is the kind of general rule guides work on when there are people trying to get through a sighting, and lots of different vehicles will therefore get a chance to see the same animal. But a 20-minute limit is not good enough for you guys, so we tend to not spend too much time here. I pulled over for this game drive vehicle and he's just done the same thing for me. A bit of a joker. Good morning.
Yeah.
How's everything?
Good.
Wonderful.
You go to Tingana?
I might go there later, yes. But stand by us. It's a long queue. How's your morning been? Okay, good. Good. Well,
maybe you can take my standby because now I'm never gonna go there.
Okay.
I'll try this after.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll get an update and then whatever. But thank you. Thanks very much. Have a good morning. See you later. Oh, very, very kind. He offered us the spot in his spot that he's secured in the queue. To go and see Tingana, this beautiful male leopard. Just got a question through from Dennis in Spain. And he's interested to know why animals may spend more time on the airstrip. Is it because it's safer there for them, or is it the food that they can find there? And it's a good question, Dennis. I think it's a combination of safety and food, but it does depend on the individual animal. You could imagine if you were a warthog, a very short animal moving through thick vegetation like this, it would be terrifying. So, simply that they can see far away, and also it's a combination for the warthog especially of feeding, because they like to, especially at this time of the year, feed on the roots of plants, and the short grass allows them to access these roots very easily. So, a combination of safety and food. There's also certain animals that like eating short grass, like wildebeest, for example, and they would therefore also be more inclined to come to these open areas around the airstrips. Station controlling Tingana, what's the current standby situation, please? Last station not copying you. Somebody else can try. I'm copying other guys a little bit better. Yeah, 5 by 5. Okay, copy, wonderful. I would like to take that. Thank you. Copy that, Ryan. I'm in no rush, and you were there ahead of me, so that's fine. Thank you. It can also get a little bit confusing for the guides with standbys and who's where, and some people take themselves off the queue, and somebody will put himself onto the queue, and it can all get a bit chaotic, and that's why I like to try and steer away from it when it's at the peak of the chaos, which it appears to be declining now. So while we wait our turn, we can just stop here and relax with... Okay, sorry buddy, well, there was a waterbuck there, but there's still some hornbills feeding, so we can watch them going about their business. And they're feeding on very, very small items of prey, and it's too small for us to see exactly what they are. It's a wide variety of little insects that they feed on, but these will probably be ants until they find a bigger prey item like a grasshopper or a chameleon. Ants will suffice. And it is now time for me to peel off a layer of clothing as the sun is beginning to have more of an effect than it was earlier. Jim, can we try and get this one in front of us here? This one's come a lot closer up to us, so it's not providing us with a better view than the initial one. And this is a yellow-billed hornbill. For obvious reasons, it's called that. There's also a red-billed hornbill, which looks very similar, other than the fact that it has a red beak. Now, you may have noticed it kind of dislodged a small, I think it was a piece of dung, looking for an insect hiding underneath it, but oh, off he goes, or she. Hard to tell the difference between the male and female hornbill. Oh, have a look here, Vian. That'll be some fun. They're all flying in the wrong direction, but they could turn around, and there's a few birds of prey flying around. This one that Viam is on now is a white-backed vulture. Still requiring to flap, and that will become less and less common, or less likely, as the day heats up more. So these vultures in all likelihood have just woken up, or not woken up, started flying. They would have been waiting for the earth to warm up, and then hot thermals or spirals of air to start rising up from the earth. And as it gets hotter, they'll be required to flap less and less as they ride these thermals effortlessly. It's just about getting onto a thermal, I'm told, and speaking to my friends who paraglide, it's the same problem the vultures face as do the paragliders. And once you are on a thermal, it can take you high and far, but it's about finding the thermal and staying on it. But that's what these vultures do for a living. They can move hundreds of kilometers or miles every day in search of food, and it's easy when you don't have to flap your wings to get anywhere. Okay, so we stopped initially for a big male waterbuck that ran off into the bush, and then some hornbills took over the show, and then I saw some shadows. I was actually just watching the ground below, or the ground in front of us, and saw 3 dark shadows pass by, and then looked up to notice the vultures soaring above us. A beautiful day it is, and great to have the sun out and be warming up again. It's never very cold here, but for what we are used to, it is cold. So there's a lot of you, I'm sure, in far colder places than us right now, so we shouldn't be complaining, but I guess it's all relative to what you're used to. And we've just come out of a very hot and humid summer here in the Lowveld. still not exactly sure where I need to go, but I've just seen the right man to help me with that, because he's ahead of us in the queue and he's on his way there. Morning everyone. Morning Ryan. How are you doing?
What happened to you the other day, bro?
I didn't get the message.
No, it's not. I'm from the village.
Oh.
Way God, that's test matches.
Where do I need to go from here? Back.
Just down. Not this road that leads, the next one left.
Okay. Cool.
You'll see the flag from there.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Have a good morning. See you later. Oh, well, it appears we are actually closer than I expected, so that's a bargain, or a bonus rather. So what I need to do though is eventually turn us around, because he was going backwards, so we were ever so slightly heading in completely the opposite direction of where we needed to be. But it's worth hanging around for. There's an interesting sighting. The visual of this leopard has been up and down, so that's a warning, but it is going to be worth hanging around for if you can, because he may have something very interesting there with him, and that is all I'm going to say about that. Just checking the radio next. Okay, copy. I'm also copying you quite clearly from here. It appears that we were actually kind of waiting in the right spot where we were watching those hornbills feeding. Okay, perfect. So this is where we need to head off-road a little bit later, not just yet, but I'm going to take us back to a little clearing where we can watch some birds going about their business. And it appears like the first candidate may be the Burchell starling, which we can see in the road. And this is the same bird that we were watching almost referee the buffaloes fight that we saw earlier. It wasn't really a full-blown fight, but there were two buffaloes having a bit of a tussle with one another, and the Burchell starling was cleverly lurking around the buffaloes. It knew that all their movement would be flushing small insects that it can then run up to and gobble up, which is what this one's doing now, just without the help of two buffaloes to flush the prey. Affirmative, Nix. It won't necessarily be long, and we might not even need to, but if so, thank you. That's a good idea. I'm copying you clearly, not the other guys so much, so if you can just let me know when I can make my way in. Copy, perfect, yeah, I noticed on the way back, thank you very much. I'm just standing by nearby, no rush, just if you can let me know. Now, let me show you here. That's something fairly interesting. If you can just get on the spider web there, please. Perfect. Now there's a very strong chance you can hear a hyena. And I'm not sure what's going on, but it's around this Tingana sighting that we're very close to. Nikki, please update me if you're picking up this audio. Sorry, go again. Okay, well, I can't copy Nikki, but I hope you did manage to hear that audio, and I wish we were there watching what was going on, but it is what it is, and we're not there, and we can't get there, even though it's so close. Anyway, interesting times lie ahead. So what we can assume now, or what you may have been able to piece together in this puzzle, and is that Tingana is there, he's a male leopard. Now there's a hyena there making a racket, and there's a strong chance that the leopard and the hyena are fighting over something. Now what would they fight over? They would be fighting over meat. And here comes another hyena that's coming into the scene that Viam's just seen. Well spotted, Viam. And isn't this awesome? There's another hyena on the way to you guys. And well done there, Viam. So this hyena has obviously heard the chaos and decided it wants to get a piece of the action, and that's normal because it would have realized that there's something worth fighting about there. Now, interestingly enough, it's an aardvark, which is a nocturnal animal that we very rarely see. And this specific male leopard has become a professional at killing these aardvark. They are not very numerous in the Sabi Sands, and I think this is the 5th one that he's been documented to catch. I have never seen an aardvark in the Sabi Sands. In all fairness, they do move very late at night, kind of. I want to be there. And I'll try and keep as quiet as I can when the audio does kick in, but I also do need to explain to everyone that we are next in queue. Copy, thanks Nikki. And Nikki says she is picking up the audio clearly, so you can all hear it, and I must apologize for us to not be there right now, but it is what it is. We are next in queue, and naturally anybody who is in that sighting, even if it was us, you would not want to leave. So we are just not in the right place at the right time, and that happens out here, and at least we're close enough to hear it, because there's a lot of people that are on safari here in the Sabi Sands that don't even have a clue what's going on here. Oh, well spotted, VM. Another vulture, and it may well have seen this action from above and now come to investigate closer, because it's floating just above where the leopard and hyena currently are. So it could have seen the hyena running from a distance in this direction. I'm not sure it would have responded to the audio, but who knows, if it was close enough, it could well have heard this characteristic sounds that are associated with kills, and that is often the hyena. Copy, thanks so much, Doug. If you can, would you mind just updating me a little bit on what went on there, just so I can tell the viewers, because they certainly could hear it, but we obviously have no idea what happened. Okay, copy. Thank you very much, Doug. Okay, well, this is awesome. Doug has kindly and very kindly said he's willing to make space. There is still a bit of interaction there, but we must be very, very grateful, because for somebody to leave a sighting like this is obviously very difficult, and Doug has so kindly made space for us, and there is still a bit of action. Basically, what Doug tells me is that he was... the Tingana and one hyena were wrestling over the aardvark kill, and that was the commotion we heard. Tingana was managing to do a fairly decent job at competing with the hyena, but when the second hyena that VM spotted came in, then the power balance shifted, and the leopard has now lost the kill. The two hyena are feeding on it, but the leopard is still watching it and may go in and try and sneak in again. And here comes a third hyena, just in front of us, and not wasting any time, wanting to get to that kill as quickly as possible. Doug, thank you so much for making space, buddy.
No worries.
Are you on? Good morning, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, just a few seconds now, folks, and then we're in for a treat. An absolute treat. The third hyena is just arriving on the scene. I'm not sure where the best place to position the vehicle is, but we'll work it out shortly. Well, now you can see that there's one hyena that's obviously dominant over the other two, and it did chase one out as we arrived here now. So this one is dominant and doesn't appear to be allowing the others to feed. The leopard is lying up nearby to us. I cannot see it now, but Ryan did show me where it is, and it is to the right of our vehicle, to the right of where we started, or where we parked. Apologies, there he goes there, Liam. If we can just get a quick shot of him as he moves off. A beautiful big male leopard. So now he's busy slinking off, and I wonder why I didn't have the kill hoisted up a tree. It is easier for them to feed on kills when they are on the ground. So you've had a brief glimpse of the leopard, and now I think the hyena are going to be providing us with the best action. Now, we can't tell that it's an aardvark from here, but it is. And I'm just going to get my binoculars out and try and have a closer look. Now, hyena's jaws are some of the strongest out here, strongest of the predators out here. And it's for this purpose. It's for... Here comes another hyena. We're in for a bit more action. No, VM, stay on the action. Stay on the kill. Well, it'd be interesting to know how far and wide they are coming from, and whether they're from different clans. This one immediately has not even attempted, the one that arrived, has not even attempted to overthrow the one that's feeding. So clearly there's some dominance here, but we'll keep a close eye on things. So just to keep everyone updated, it's now 4 hyena and 1 male leopard lying up nearby. Sadly for the male leopard, he has lost his kill, and I don't think he's going to see any more of it. With 1 hyena, there's a small chance a large male leopard will be able to compete on the ground for a kill like this. And as soon as any more hyena come, it will become close to impossible for him to safely try and keep the kill. And that's why he's abandoned it. And he's lying up probably 25 meters away from all this action. And he knows there he's safe because it's the meat that they're after mainly. And these hyena now have got only themselves to worry about. As he lifts up that piece of meat, that you can see the claws, and those are very characteristic claws of the aardvark. So that's about the only feature that we can show you of this rare nocturnal animal that is distinguishable on the carcass at this stage. Is there another hyena arriving? Potentially. I just saw one look back in the direction they've all been coming from, but nothing further. Well, just to let everyone know, we may spend a few minutes more than the regular drive due to all the action here. This is really great, and we very seldom, or I've yet to see or hear hyena interaction like this in the 5 months we've been filming. So let's stick around and see what happens with these hyena. Here comes the leopard. Let's see what the leopard's going to do to him. He may well try and chase one of the hyena, or oh. Well, we could well find him up a tree shortly. well, the other 3 hyenas are now on their way back that chased him off. And interesting how it works. Those 3 hyenas are essentially doing the other hyena that's left here feeding a huge favor. And it's incredible how numbers change things. As soon as you've got safety in numbers and strength in numbers, behavior of animals can differ greatly, and this is clearly evident now. One-on-one, they wouldn't dare take on that male leopard as boldly as they did now. I am tempted to try and go and have a quick look for him. Not an easy decision because there's obviously great action here, but it appears that only one hyena is feeding and they're not going to compete too much between one another. So let's see if we can go and try and find a visual of this leopard, which is not going to be easy to find now, but certainly worth looking around for. And he was, after all, the reason why we've come here, yet we haven't spent much time at all looking at him. And I can, interestingly enough, actually see a lot of excavations in this area that would have been dug by the aardvark, and which is making prey, which is making, where was I going with this? So the aardvark would have been digging, and they dig for termites. Aardvark, the prey animal that the hyena were feeding on there, that they'd stolen from the leopard, are highly specialized in feeding on termites. And that's why they've got those big claws to be able to dig into termite mounds. Yeah. So the leopard kind of ran up in this general direction. It's hard to say how far. Okay, well done. He came straight to the base of this tree, which I guess he could have climbed up if need be. And that is why we came here, to have a look around. And he's still looking intently back in the direction of the kill. What a beautiful big male this is. You can't feel too sorry for it though. It was this leopard's bad judgment of not having the kill up the tree. It certainly would not have been too big or too heavy for the leopard to get into a tree. And it was right below a marula where it could have quite comfortably, or easily rather, have had that kill. But the risk he took of having it on the ground was that if any other animal like a hyena or even lion comes onto the scene, there's going to be a strong likelihood that he loses it. And you can see he's very cautiously backing into the shade of this round leaf teak. I'm glad we got this view of him here. Now, let's go back and have a quick look at what the hyena are doing. Like I say, I'm not convinced that there's going to be too much more interaction from them, but I'm glad we got a good look at this big male leopard. But I fear this is going to be the position he acquires for some time now before the hyena eventually finish the kill. And then what I'm guessing he will do is then go back into this that area and look for any scraps or titbits to feed on. Well done there, Viam. Thank you. I'm just going to wait. There's another vehicle that's come in. One vehicle's made space, another one's coming in. And protocol in a sighting like this is that we will only move one vehicle at a time, and that's to prevent there being too much audio. That is if the animals are stationary. And Nikki, I can't copy her at all, sadly. So apologies. I cannot copy what Nikki's saying, therefore it makes it very difficult to send through any questions to me. So if you do have any questions that are being not answered, I'm sorry, but there's a lot going on here. Well folks, I'm just going to have a brief look at these hyena one last time, and then myself and VMD have a fair distance to get back to camp. And it has been a wonderful morning, but I feel that all the action here is done. And the hyena have got lucky this morning, and that does happen. And it won't be the first time this leopard would have lost a kill to the hyena. Well, as I said, it's time to make space for us. There is another vehicle now that wants to come into the sighting and take our spot. And we have had a great time, but it's important to share what little remains of this kill. So we're going to make space, and we'll catch up with you this afternoon. I'm not sure whether myself or Brent is going out. We're hoping to have the second vehicle fixed up by tomorrow, so it could well just be Brent and VM out this afternoon. Either way, there will be a safari, so tune in and we'll see you next time.